Okay, hi everyone. We meet again in ESP course design. So, in this opportunity, we are going to talk about the approaches to course design. So, in the previous meeting, we all know that we are going to do the practices, especially about the need analysis and some theories in designing course design in ESP. Okay, so again, just before we talk much about what we are going to do, I think we need to refresh our mind about the approaches to course design. So remember, course design is the process by which the raw data about a learning need is interpreted in order to produce an integrated series of teaching learning experiences. And the ultimate goal is to lead learners to a particular state of knowledge. So, course design. This is what we are going to do, designing an ESP course. How can we do the design? How can we design the ESP course? So, number one, because we are planning to practice all of the theory that we learned in the previous semester, our focus in this semester is on the need analysis and then on designing the ESP course. So number one, you need to select a particular profession that you have the interest in teaching that profession. So for example, I want to be a teacher of a group of policemen. So you will design the course for the police. So the title of the subject will be English for Policemen. And another example is if you are interested in teaching a group of doctors, then you will design the English course for doctors. Some other examples are, for example, you want to teach a group of teachers, then you can make the course named English for Teachers. You can also make like English for farmers, English for postmen, English for receptionists, English for nurses, and so on and so forth. Okay, so in this semester, we are going to design a course. How can we design it? Number one, you choose the profession. For example, teachers, doctors, policemen, postmen. Number two, you need to do the need analysis. After you select a particular profession, you need to do the research about the people's need in their profession. So you will do a kind of survey. You distribute questionnaires to 30 people in the similar profession. For example, 30 people working as doctors. So you need to interview or distribute the survey to 30 doctors or 30 policemen or 30 factory workers. So it's up to you. You are free to choose the course that you want to design as long as it is ESP. So English for blah blah blah. You choose yourself and you analyze the people's needs, and after that you do the design. Again, what is design? The process by which the raw data about a learning need is interpreted to produce a series of teaching and learning experiences. So the raw data here is the result of your needs analysis. The respondents' answers, they become the raw data. After you collect the data, then you make the analysis. Oh, my learners want to learn speaking. Oh, my learners want to learn reading. Oh, my learners only want to learn speaking, for example. You make the summary. You interpret what the learners need. For example, oh, they are still in the beginner levels. So I have to teach them the basic English, basic grammars, basic vocabulary, for example. So you can only design the course after you do the need analysis. So we will make a questionnaire, distribute to a group of people in the same profession, and then you read their answers. And the answers will be the basis for you to design the ESP course. Is that clear? Hopefully, yes. Okay? So feel free to ask if you think that my explanation is not too clear. Okay. Remember in the previous semester, we discussed about the approaches to course design. We have language-centered course design, we have skills-centered course design, and we have a learning-centered approaches. Do you still remember all of them? So I will remind you about 3 of them. Hopefully you don't mind. Okay, number 1, language-centered course design. From the word language-centered. So the aim is to draw connection between the analysis of target situation and the content of the ESP course as direct as possible. So with this approach, you will link or connect the needs of the learners and the materials that you are going to teach. So you draw the connection as direct as possible between the analysis of the target situation and the content of the ESP class. So target situation. Do you remember about target situation? It is the real situation where the learners will use the English in their work. For example, if you are teaching a group of doctors, then the target situation can be in the situation where doctors talk to the patient, the doctors talk to the nurses, when the doctors explain a particular disease, when the doctors explain about medical treatment, and so on and so forth. So if you imagine the real situation where the doctors will use English, then you know the types of conversation. And then this type of conversation will become the materials in your ESP class. Is that clear? So very close to the real situation. This is the main idea. You are teaching the language that the doctors or the other people will use in their real job. So this is the diagram. So number 1, you identify learner's target situation, and then you select theoretical views of language, and then identify linguistic features of the target situation, and then you create the syllabus. So syllabus is the end product of your project this semester. So your project will result in the creation of a syllabus. So you become the designer of the syllabus. Okay, so we will stop up to the syllabus writing. Okay, so for the weaknesses of this approach, okay, remember, because this is not learner-centered approach, because we are talking about a language-centered course design, so this is not learner-centered approach, but learner-restricted approach. I think last time we have talked and discussed about this. So because based on my example, we are talking about doctors. So you imagine the situation where the doctors will use English. And then when you list the types of conversation, okay, it is restricted into the conversation between doctors and nurses, doctors and patient, for example. So you are teaching only a particular language that the doctor will use. So this is what we mean restricted. Restricted mean limited. Okay, so we don't really teach a wide range of topics. We only teach a particular topics. So this is the meaning of restricted approach. Okay, and then by using this approach, there is another weakness. So it is static and inflexible procedure. What if the initial analysis wrong? So the weakness is that if you do the need analysis, you distribute survey, and then you analyze the survey incorrectly, in a wrong way, not correct. So your interpretation will be also wrong. And then if you are wrong in interpreting the survey result, then you will teach the wrong materials. Okay, so be careful about this. And then it looks systematic, but doesn't guarantee systematic learning. Yes, so for this one, I think we all agree that even though we design the course in a professional way, we present the material in a systematic way, but we cannot guarantee systematic learning, that our learners will understand, step by step of every materials that we are presenting. So we cannot really guarantee. And then it didn't consider learning factors. So when you present the materials, it doesn't matter if it is boring, it is ESP. This is about ESP. So it doesn't matter if it is boring, it is the learner's needs, and this is ESP. So this is good for the teacher. I don't care if it is boring. This is ESP. Okay? And then it only covers surface level analysis without revealing the competence underlies the performance. So yes, when you are focusing on the language centered course design, we mainly look at the surface level, what the doctors will use in their conversation, the topics that they are going to have in their work, for example. But sometimes we forget about the competence, all of the knowledge, saved in their brain. Okay, so the hidden capacity or hidden competence that we cannot see, okay, the competence. Okay, next, number 2, the second approach is skill-centered course design. There are two principles here. So we are focusing more on the skills and strategies. So underlying any language behavior are certain skills and strategies which the learner uses to produce or comprehend this course. And it aims at looking at the competence that underlies the performance. And a skill-centered course will present the learning objectives in terms of performance and competence. So this is goal-oriented and process-oriented. Yeah, we are focusing on process-oriented. If you are focusing on goal-oriented, you may fail a lot of students, and the focus of ESP is not achieving a particular set of goals, but enabling the learners to achieve what they can within the given constraints. So again, in skill-centered course design, not like the language-centered course design, which focus more on the surface level or performance. In skill-centered course design, you are focusing more on the competence. Certain skills and strategies. Remember about competence? So if people can speak fluently in front of the public, then they must have the competence. They are able to know how to pronounce the words correctly. They know the types of vocabulary to use so that they can use various words. For example, they know about English grammar well. They are having self-confidence, and so on and so forth. So there are so many things to focus on, especially on the competence that underlies the performance. So here the skill-centered course design focus more on performance and competence, not just the performance. And the good part is that, see the last sentence, the focus of ESP is not achieving a particular set of goals, but enabling the learners to achieve what they can within the given constraint. So here you believe that every learner can reach, can develop their language mastery, and you don't set the target or the goals, but you appreciate every development that the learners have. So the skill-centered approach takes learner more into account because it views the language in terms of how the mind of the learner processes it, rather than as an entity in itself. It tries to build on the positive factors that the learners bring to the course, rather than just on the negative idea of lacks. And it frames its objective in open-ended terms, so enabling learners to achieve at least something. So this is the good part. So we want to make learners to achieve something in their class. At least they can learn something. And then approach the learner as the user of language rather than as a learner of a language. And the process concerned with the process of language use, not as not of language learning. Okay, next. This is the diagram. So number one, when you use this approach, you need to, number one, identify target situation, and then analyze the skill or strategies required to cope in target situation. And number three, you need to write the syllabus. So again, the final product will be the syllabus. Okay, so which one do you choose? Language-centered or skill-centered? Or the third one? Let's see. The third one is a learning-centered approach. So learning here is totally determined by the learner. Learning is seen as a process in which the learners use what knowledge or skills they have in order to make sense of the flow of the new information. And learning is not just a mental process, it is a process of negotiation between individuals and society. So society sets the target, and individuals must do their best to get as close to that target as possible, or possibly reject it. And then we use the term learning centered approach because the concern is to maximize learning. So in this third approach, our focus is to maximize our learners' learning. Okay, so let's compare the three approaches. So a language-centered approach says this is the nature of the target situation performance and that will determine the ESP course. Second, a skill-centered approach says that's not enough. We must look behind the target performance data to discover what processes enable someone to perform. Those processes will determine the ESP course. Number 3, a learning-centered approach says that's not enough either. We must look beyond the competence because we really want to discover how someone acquires that competence. So the three approaches have different focus. So if you use the first focus, so you focus on the performance, and the performance will become the main materials of the ESP class. The second one, you are focusing on the competence. Number 3, you need to discover how the learner acquires that competence. Okay, so in a learning-centered approach, course design is a negotiated process and it is a dynamic process. So don't worry, it is not a strict process. Everything can be changed, modified, developed. So if you are still not clear about this, you can come back to our ESP book, see on page 74 or the whole chapter about this. So I just refresh your mind. Hopefully this gives you a clear idea about the approaches to course design, things that you are going to do during this semester. So feel free to ask. I'm happy to answer all of your questions. Thank you very much.